Hello, everyone. First of all, I want to say welcome to all of you. Welcome to any of you who have come here from my first channel, Chemistry with Kismet Tarot, and welcome to anyone and everyone who is coming here for the first time. I've been toggling in my mind, going back and forth. There was a lot of vacillation about continuing forward with Chemistry with Kismet Tarot or starting fresh, starting new. And as soon as I opened the door in my mind and through my journaling for getting a fresh start, I had this huge epiphany moment, no doubt given to me by my guides as they had just been eagerly waiting. MonAndU. I wanted to kind of break myself away from Chemistry with Kismet, the Kismet Chemist, everything that had come before. And when I talk about before, a huge theme over the past couple of years in my life has been lines of demarcation. Those are definitive moments where there is a before and an after. Moments where our lives change drastically. From the very early months of 2023 through until even now, my life has gone through so many upheavals, so many changes. I've lost my grandmother, my aunt, and then at the end of the year last year, my uncle passed away. And for those of you who are here from Chemistry with Kismet, you guys know that I love deeply and profoundly. And so loss impacts me deeply. To give a little bit of a backstory and why we're all here today. In October of 2024, I got very sick. I tested positive for COVID for the second time, but my body was telling me there was something more, something else going on that I was missing, something that had been going on much earlier than that, and now it was coming to a head. I was in and out of the hospital. There was one evening that was incredibly terrifying where my husband had to call EMS and I had to be taken by ambulance. I ended up spending a week in the hospital out of town, about 2 hours away from where I live. And I came to the very edge of being in a coma. And I can still very vividly remember those moments where I was being sucked down out of anything that I would have called consciousness or being within my body. It was like part of me was being sucked into this vortex, and I would pass in and out of consciousness. My mom was there with me, and she kept telling me that she would put her ear close to my mouth to make sure I was still breathing. She would check my pulse to make sure my heart was still beating. It was incredibly terrifying. And the next morning, I have a very vague memory of everything. There was so much activity. They kept sending phlebotomists in to take blood work for labs. And it was almost every hour, every couple hours, they would come in and stick me in a new spot. And so my arms were covered in bruises. And by the end of the day, I was moved to a different room and told that my pituitary gland in my brain had shut down, that my adrenal glands had shut down, my thyroid, my thymus. And the fear was that it went all the way to my hypothalamus in my brain. I was diagnosed with adrenal insufficiency, given a rescue pack just in case I were to slip into a coma again so that there would be medicine that would help bring me back to consciousness. And I fell into this deep, dark chasm inside of myself. And I didn't know how to get out. And then life kept going. And a couple months after that, it was mid-January where I started to shift. My body started feeling better. I started remembering that I have these tools that I have built over the years using bioresonance frequencies, doing the Wim Hof breathing method, meditation, Reiki. I had all of these techniques and these tools, but I wasn't utilizing them because I had lost faith in myself. I hadn't lost faith in the universe, but I had lost faith in myself. And in doing so, I lost trust in myself and the belief that I could get out of it. And so I had to rebuild that. And I'm still rebuilding that. But I started doing my healing methods, and I am now 2 weeks medication free. My body is healing itself again, finally. And I started taking an astrology course. And each week we go through and we meet in our class and we get assigned homework. And I knew if I didn't have some sort of accountability, this would always stay in that realm of ideas and dreams and thoughts and concepts and what I want to do and how I'm going to do it, and wanting to make sure that I had a plan in place and all of the dynamics. And it just was a distraction to keep me on this path that I don't actually complete it. I don't fulfill that dream that I'm holding inside of me. In my first class, I knew that this was something that I needed to step up and say, I need help with this. And so my homework assignment was to film, to post, and to share it. And that has been what has brought me here. MonAndU. I wanted to do a little play off of like university, college learning, that next level, that next step. I also wanted to go with just my name, Monica Anderson, author, intuitive, mother, daughter, wife, friend, sister, all of these different roles that I play, but they're my roles. They're the roles that my soul chose to come here and be within. And that's such an important part of our journey, is embodying that part that we are here to play. I've been the person that will talk about astrology, that will study, and that will share all of the different insights and wisdoms and energies that I'm picking up and channeling and combining all of these elements together. I've been that person that will come out and talk to you guys. But I've also been that person that looks at my own natal chart and I'm like, I have no idea what this means. I have no idea what my own natal chart means because I struggle so much with looking inside of myself in that way. I can do it through my mind. I can do it through my emotions, but through astrology, it's always been a struggle. And that's why this class is so important to me. There's always that one area that we have our biggest blind spot towards ourselves in. It could be relationships. It could be in work. It could be in finances. It could be in education or studies. It could be in a multitude of realms. It could be in multiple realms. But we all have this commonality, this, I have a blind spot about myself. And when we admit that to ourselves, when I admitted that to myself, it begged the question of how do I get beyond that? How do I look into my blind spot? You know, when we're living life, we don't have any rear view mirrors like we do in vehicles, so we can't really look at it. We can't just glance to the side and be like, oh, there it is. That's what I've been looking for. We have to actively engage in our lives. And so I asked Spirit to be with me, to be with all of us. I set the intention to help me understand what it is that I wanted my first step to be, or not even what it is that I wanted my first step to be, but what my first step divinely into this new channel, this new way of being really is. And just like that, it was like, oh, okay, clear as day. A new beginning on the horizon. When we're walking through that tunnel of darkness or the forest or swimming through the chaotic oceanic waves, however it is that you look at that struggle time during life, when we're going through it, we're going through that dark night. We all have our own unique metaphors for it. I often talk about the forest. For me, this time was different. There was no beauty that I could find. It was just sheer darkness. It was like being in a tunnel, and behind me was dark and in front of me was dark. And we all want that light at the end. I wanted a light with me, just so that I could see a little bit in front of me, being prepared for the surprises or the shocks of life instead of just walking blindly into them. I just wanted that light with me. When we look to the horizon just before the sun breaks, when you can see that inky blackness start turning to a blue, a deep navy blue, and you know the sun is about to rise. That's what that horizon new beginning is. The darkness isn't over. The light is not there, but there is that promise that it is about to change. And that's what we're here together to talk about. This is the card that came up to symbolize what this new beginning is. And this is the Wordless Oracle deck. You can find it on Etsy. And I asked about the shadow, and I thought this was beautiful because in this shadow energy, it's been a solitary journey. Blacks and whites and grays and clouds and waves just crashing and crashing and crashing ashore, crashing and sweeping over us and sweeping us asunder, and really challenging us to believe that in the midst of all of these clouds and all of this confusion, that there really is something to hope for, that there really is a light on the horizon, a light at the end of the tunnel coming through, that there are birds of peace coming for us, to show us, to tell us there is something more. And it's just right ahead. And now I'm hearing just around the river bend from Pocahontas. Not shocking. It's been repeating for me for a couple of days now. I'm going to toss this up here real quick, just to kind of allow that energy to come forth. So I'm actually working with all of this particular creator's decks. This is, her name is Ray Serafina Barker. See if I can get that to focus for you guys. If you guys want to check her stuff out, she is incredible. I love her work. So she does the Rooted Remembrance Tarot, the Deep Place Oracle, the Stones and Shadow, I believe it's called. Yeah, the Stone and Shadow Oracle. And she also does this Wordless Oracle deck. So let's just get a little bit of tarot guidance to see where we're at. Okay, so we're doing a past, present, future, it would seem. And here we go. This is the theme that we're working with, the Six of Dreams. To me, this speaks a lot of that lesson for us to learn about unconditionally loving our own dreams, loving ourselves, loving our past, loving our future, loving our present. So in the past, we have the steward of dreams. Now, you can equate it to the Knight of Cups. And the Knight of Cups is that one that says, I have this in my hand and I know what it is and I am here to offer it. And as you can see, she's got this beautiful blooming rose, but it's almost like the shadow of it. So in the past, collectively, as we're looking at or walking through this darkness, this cloudy period, there's this understanding that we hold what we need in our hands. But how do we get it from our hands and this metaphorical place into the physical? It's not always the easiest thing for us to do, to figure out how to transform something that we just know within ourselves we're here to do, we're here to create, we're here to build, we're here to experience. But we don't necessarily understand how to take that knowingness and formulate it into something solid. So we hold it in our hands, in our hearts, in our minds. We hold it. And we say, what am I doing? How do I do this? How do I take this idea and make it into something? And I've been there as an author that I can't tell you how many notes in my notes app on my phone that I have of different ideas, different bits and pieces of channeling ideas that I have in there it's these tiny little snippets. And I'm like, how am I supposed to put any of this together? And I haven't yet. But if you're holding it, if you have it there, then you know that it's for something. Because in my truth, and this doesn't have to be yours, we all decide what our truths are based off of a multitude of things. But in my truth, these things come to us and they come forth from us. And they're meant for something, even if it's just insight into ourselves. It's not meant to be shared with the world, but it's meant for us. They're still important. They're important pieces to everything in our lives. And so I don't ever look at them and I'm like, no, this is useless. I've had many moments where I've gone back to notes from as far back as 2020, 2021, and I'm looking at them and I'm going, okay, well, this is actually making me think of this other thing. And so in that, you take that and you start spreading it, moving it around. So right now, we're sitting collectively in the 7 of light. Now, if you know the Rider-Waite Tarot, you know that the 7 of Wands, that's the card of essentially having opposition coming at you from every single angle. But what if we looked at it as that spark? Look at how many different areas you have the capability of bringing together into wholeness, into this world. Look at all the different avenues, the different pathways, the different possibilities. And she's not the figure on the card. Her eyes aren't open. It's the purity of trust, trusting in yourself, trusting in the pathways, trusting in where you're led. Now, I'm never going to diminish when you are in a point of struggle, when you want to rail against the man or rail against the machine or rail against the universe. I have literally had sit-down meetings with the universe, with the divine creator, with my guides, and said, what the heck? What in the literal F is going on? What is the point of this? Why? Why would we suffer? Why would we hurt? Why would we go through these things? Why can't we just learn our lessons? Why me? Why this? And it wasn't consciously intended to be like, woe is me. Though I openly admit I went into those phases. But it was this, why is it coming at me from every angle? And how do I free myself. When I stopped looking, that was when I was found. That is when the universe comes in and goes, finally, you're hearing me. You need to stop. You need to listen. Close your eyes. Use your third eye. Use your heart. Use your soul. Use that connection that we all have internally. Right now, man, this whole world is so chaotic and nobody knows what's going to happen next. I live in the United States. We're chaotic. We're a mess. We put ourselves into that position. So if we put ourselves into a position of a mess, and now we can take this back to the personal, if we put ourselves in the position of a mess, now what do? You clean the mess up. And it doesn't matter how messy and it doesn't matter how long it takes. You do your due diligence and you clean the mess up. I created an internal physical mess because I didn't want to deal with an emotional upheaval. I didn't know how to face a world I didn't recognize after my aunt died. She was a sister, a mother, a confidant, and a friend. She was the glue of belonging that held me in place in my family, and I didn't know how to fit without her. I still don't 100% know how to fit without her, but I'm learning to allow that to be okay. So I had all these things coming at me, and now I have all these different ideas coming at me, and I'm still struggling. So for the new beginning, what are we called to do? Allow it to happen. We've got the Ace of Dreams. This is what we're moving into, what we're moving towards, or what's moving towards us. It doesn't matter how we define the motion. It's about the energy. A couple of days ago, I had this switch go off in my brain. And all of a sudden, it was like my eyes were opened again for the first time, as though I was standing in the middle of that tunnel, but it was broad daylight and the tunnel was just a sidewalk. I had made the tunnel inside of me the whole time. And so I'm standing on that sidewalk, and that sidewalk is filled with people and birds and animals. And it was just beautiful. And I looked around and I realized that I'm literally sitting in this creation of a new life. Everything that I knew before was just broken down and lost. And I sat in that loss. I sat in that feeling of being attacked. I sat in that feeling like, what do I do? And then I decided I didn't want to sit in it anymore. So as we move forward, as we're offered this new dream, this new idea, this new adventure, because we've got a boat here, we've got a ship going through this new place, a rainbow guiding it. So we have this beautiful new beginning that we're being offered right on that horizon as that inky blackness shifts to that deep blue, then navy, indigo, all the way to that beautiful cerulean, bright blue sky, baby blue sky, with the sun just beating down on us, warming us as we remember what it's like to be alive, to dream, to hope, to wish. Ever so much, we're still carrying the shadows. So what do? I'm hearing something right now. It's important to remember as we move into the light that the shadows do not disappear. They always exist for polarity exists. We can see polarity as duality if we choose, or we can see how each polar opposite works together, works in harmony for us. But it depends on your perspective. Are you going to base your perspective off of the perception that you have, the perception that is based off of your five senses, that which you would call tangible, that which you would call real? Or will you expand it out now? You are in this stepping forth into stepping onto the boat. Permission granted for you to board. You're stepping onto it, and there's a new adventure. Now I'm hearing Bilbo Baggins in my head. If you don't keep your feet, Frodo, there's no knowing where the road will take you. If we don't pay attention, the road may come up, but it's not the road that comes up and swallows us. It's the shadows that we're not mindfully monitoring. And when we are mindful about our shadows, it doesn't mean that we are vilifying ourselves or we see our shadows as a bad thing. I have learned so much about how much love my shadow has for me, and that is the basis of it. The shadow will present itself in oppositional energies. It'll present in anger when really it wants joy. It will present in sadness when it's seeking happiness. It will present in the lower form because it believes in us, it loves us, and it wants us to show it. Show it that other form. Show it the form it desperately desires to experience. And the only way it can experience it is through us, because the shadow is part of us. So let's find out what shadows we are being asked to be mindful of. What shadows do we need to keep our feet about? There we go. From the top and the bottom. So we have power and we have pilgrimage. The pilgrimage stays on the back, so I'm just going to keep it there. This is the biggest shadow that we are being asked to be mindful of, to keep aware of. Power. I don't want to bring politics into it. I don't want to bring religion into this. So I want you to think about power. What does power mean to you? When we feel powerless, how do you respond? How do you respond when you feel powerless? When I was in the hospital, that was one major thing. I felt so powerless. I got home and I was so traumatized from my experience in the hospital that going to see my primary care doctor created pure panic. And I would sit at home and I would cry. I would cry and say, I don't have control over my life. The doctors are controlling my life. The doctors are dictating what I can do and what I can't do and what my limitations are. And they're making me take these meds and this and that. And I felt so powerless. And I started resenting those in power, not realizing that the power that I needed for healing was not going to be found out with the doctors. It wasn't going to be found with the medicines. It was going to be found inside of myself. Now, this is my own unique story. What is your story? What is the story that you tell? I was telling one story and I had to change that. And I still actively am working to change it. I had just this morning a moment where I felt so powerless. And I crumbled and I curled up in a ball and I cried. And then my dog Willow came and climbed on top of me and snuggled up and gave me this big, huge smile and then started licking the tears off my face. And I realized that I was again giving power to someone and something else. And it's up to me to return back to myself, to regather my energy and to assert what power I have over my own life. Now, I am always that person that teaches the only thing that we control is our actions and or reactions, how we interact. Excuse me, I had to yawn. Yay for alchemization of energies. But when we are the ones that are in control, in power of ourselves, we determine, am I going to allow this into my heart, my mind, into my psyche? Am I going to allow this to have a say in how I act, how I respond, how I believe in myself? Am I going to allow it that much power in my life? Or am I going to say, that is that outside issue and it has nothing to do with me, and I have this power here. I have the power to decide, the power to choose. Now, that's such a huge blessing that we have in this world, and we fumble it. We fumble that superpower that we all get, that power of choice. And it's important for us to do that. It's important for us to fumble it, to see certain things as we might perceive it as being mistakes. Because in doing that, in going through that, we actually learn more about what we are, what we're made of, and what we're here to do. So let's go a little bit deeper and see what help we have. That was so fast. My gosh. Look at this. Look. It's growth. Growth is what we have. And I see a hawk up here on this top corner. And I find it very funny. Synchronistic, truly. I was driving to pick my kids up on Monday, late morning, early afternoon, to bring them home from a visit with their dad. And as I was driving there, I saw a hawk and a raven battling in the air, like full on aerial battle. And it's not the first time I've seen something like that. I've seen a raven passing through a crow's territory and the crows were mobbing it. But this was the first time I saw a raven and a hawk. And it was so distinct, so clear. And then the hawk spread its wings and I could see its entire underbelly as though it was just offering itself. And as I drove back, the raven was the one that remained. And here you see the hawk flying. We can choose whether we remain in our same area, in our same territory, in our same place. And that's not a bad thing. It's not a negative. It's only that if you make it that. But we get that option. Do you want to grow beyond it? And if you do, then you use your sharp eyesight to scope out that horizon and move into that growth. Quietude, stillness, listening. This new beginning that I keep picking up. You may be like me, where you decide, even though I've put forth all of this time and energy and effort into this area, it's genuinely time for me to start fresh. It doesn't mean destruction. I'm not taking down my other channel, for there's benefit there just as much as what I had the intention to create here. But that is no longer part of my journey. It's part of the past, of my lessons, of my growth. And if it weren't for me stopping and moving into stillness, would I have heard the hawks cry, beckoning me into that growth? Or would I continue to allow whatever anybody else said to have power over what I was going to do? Or even what I was saying to myself about what I could do? What about your life? When you think about a new beginning, what does your mind tell you that is? What does your heart quicken at the thought of? What area of your life is it that you're looking for that new beginning in? What is holding you back? What are those ones that you feel are battling you and challenging you and asking you, are you ready for this? Can you handle this? Or telling you this, that, or the other thing? What are the possibilities? I can't answer any of these questions for you. It's not my job. I'm the vessel to bring the questions forward. I'm the vessel to connect. I'm your friend. I'm your cheerleader. Always, always, always your cheerleader. But your answers are your own, and they exist here in your heart. Wow, guys. Oh, I haven't sat here and done this for months, and I love it. Oh, this is so great. I want to say thank you guys so, so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you to the cosmos, to spirit, to the guides, to the ancestors, the angels. Thank you. Thank you to each and every one of you for the energy, for the community, for the love. Thank you for being here. This is just the first. I'm not going to make any grandiose statements about where I'm going from here, how often I'm going to post. This is going to be one of those intensely intuitively led things. But I am so grateful to start this new beginning with each and every one of you. And I hope that you will share in the comments all about your new beginnings. If you guys feel called to, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. If you guys are interested in any of my books, the link is in the description box. It's also in the channel description. And so are links to Chemistry with Kismet Tarot. Maybe there's something over there. All right. Okay, my loves, my new friends, my community. Welcome and thank you. I'm going to leave you here and I will see you at my next reading. Bye, guys.